Okay, so welcome back to another episode. I think today is book 27. So what's
It
book
is.
27?
It is. Book 27. This one's a really, really, really personal, uh, um, impactful book in my life. An incredibly impactful book in my life. Probably, I dare to say, the most impactful book that I've ever read in my life. So I'll now that I've kind of set the stage of how big this one is, but let me explain. So the reflection title for this one is "This Book Changed My Life," and the book is called "Trusting God Day by Day." It's 365 daily devotions by the author Joyce Meyer. Joyce Meyer is like I don't really follow this world. Like this isn't like something I knew about or anything like that when I didn't actually pick this book. Um, but I guess she's like a minister, faith leader kind of person out there, I guess in the world. And she does. I think she has like a TV show or something. I don't know. I don't really know Joyce Meyer that much, but this book, I'll explain how this came into my life. So each this book is 365 days of a new reflection of Joyce reflects on a Bible passage, and then she shares her thoughts basically, and then she asks you a question at the end of it. Um, it's usually like maybe a
Just like this?
yeah, just like this. Yeah, it's like usually like a
Okay.
two minute read, and each page by page is three. There's
I see.
January 1st. Here's the reflection, right?
Hmm.
Um, so when I say that this book changed my life, it's not what you think. Like, because I wrote in the reflection here, I was like, I can hear
Hmm.
any reader now going, "Oh God, here comes the God, spiel, oh God entered my life and everything changed, and I
Hmm.
found Jesus and whatever." Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just not. That's not what this is about. So this is actually about how this book introduced me to writing and introduced me to my own thoughts and introduced me to connecting really it's the catalyst for this kind of even journey that we're on right now. So what happened was, when my daughter was born on March 15th of 2020, she arrived 4.5 months premature, as we've talked about in other segments before of this and other Your
Hmm.
Magical Learning Reflections. And uh, you know it was scary, it was chaotic. We didn't know what to do, and I was doing my best just to kind of keep my wits about me. I don't know why. I honestly, I couldn't tell you why. But for some reason, I told my wife and we made a decision that we wanted to journal about this process. I had never journaled before. I'd never written before. I'd never done anything like this before. I just kept looking at my daughter and her isolette and saw how strong and courageous she was, and I was like, there's just something I want her to be able to learn about her own journey someday. So I thought, I think it'll be good for us to write about it. So every day we started to write to our daughter. That was the start of the journal that ultimately became the I Can't Imagine book that we wrote about after we lost her. Um, uh, and how this relates to this book is, once again, I'd never really written anything before in my life. I didn't know what to write about. Like I was writing about what I was seeing, what I was observing, how I felt, how strong she was. And a couple days into our after she was born, and uh, we had been home. I think maybe it was like 2 or 3 days. It was after we got discharged from the hospital, and then we were going back and forth from the hospital during the pandemic. One of my wife's friends came over. Her name's Ashley, and she dropped off this book. She dropped off some other stuff as well, but she dropped off this book. And she had a little note pinned on like on a post-it on March 15th, 2020, or on March 15th, because the book isn't by years, but on March 15th, the day that my daughter was born.
Hmm.
And had a little message that I won't tell you the message necessarily, but at a high level, it was they had their own struggles in their own life, and she had mentioned this is something that her and her husband read. She was like, it's not perfect or anything, but if it helped them, she was like, maybe it can help you. And I was like, I was desperate, like I didn't know what to do.
Right.
So I thought, what the hell, I'll give it a try. So
Hmm.
my wife and we took it to the NICU. It actually sat in the little corner of the NICU next to my daughter, and every day, whoever got to the NICU first that day, because we could only have one person in at a time, they would take a picture of it, and they would send it via text to the other person who was back at home waiting to get to the NICU, because we had to rotate in and out. And
Right.
we would kind of read it together, and that was what I would write about at the very beginning of my journal entry every single morning that I was writing to my daughter. Was whatever the reflection was, I wrote my own thoughts on Joyce's reflection, basically, of a Bible verse. So that began the habit for me of,
Mhm.
of writing a reflection every single day to my daughter, about, reading somebody else's thoughts and then generating my own thoughts, and then sharing them with my daughter, and connecting with my own mind and stuff like that. So that was really the catalyst and the basis of how I started writing every day, to be honest with you. And I still do that every single day. My new book that I have, Joyce and I, we've gone through our entire book. The new one I'm doing this year is Live in Grace and Walk in Love by Bob Goff. I'm actually almost done with it. We're about, I don't know, March 15th away from, so maybe 15 days away or so from me finishing that year with Bob Goff and writing reflections. And then I also have done the Daily Stoic, which is another one. And I don't know what I'm going to do next year yet. I need to make that decision here soon. But anyway, that habit has continued on. So, the point that I wanted to share with anybody and everybody is I know we talked about this actually a little bit before, with the book by Matthew Walker, or Matthew. Oh gosh, what was his name? Resisting Happiness. Matthew Kelly. That Resisting Happiness book by Matthew Kelly, where we talked about 10 minutes a day can change your life. Well, this is really when the 10 minutes a day for me changed, kickstarted and did change my life. I started to have conversations with myself. I started to write it down. I started to understand a lot more about my values, about my purpose, connecting with my daughter, and I developed a passion for writing, and sharing my thoughts with the world. And at this point in time, I can't stop, and I'm never going to stop. But this book holds a really near and dear place in my heart. It was really the beginning of my writing journey. It ties me back to Amelia, and it brings me right back into that moment when we were sitting in the NICU with her, and reading this to her every morning, and sharing my thoughts and writing it down for her. So it's a pretty special book for me. But the question that I had for everybody on this one is, how could 10 minutes of reflection each day help you in your own life? I know how it helped me in my own life, but yeah, I'd love to turn it over to you and get your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, 10 minutes a day for anything would change anyone's life.
Yeah,
It's just because if you think about, the number of days, 10 minutes each, just the sheer numbers of days that you've done it across your life, that's a lot of minutes, a whole lot of minutes.
Yeah.
So it could be something for good or something for bad. I mean, if I decide to use my 10 minutes to gorge on junk food, for example, I'll be obese. I have health issues.
Right.
Or I can watch things that are not beneficial to my knowledge. Watching things that is poisons to my brain. Meaning, just things that people tell you that it's the world is going to be collapsing and this and that, and that could be a stress. It could create a 10-minute stress, and imagine all of that stresses accumulate, and eventually I'll become a depressed person. So
Yeah.
10 minutes, and if you do that consistently, it becomes who you are. And
Yeah.
when right, so that means that if you are happy, you become happy. If you're doing something that is bad, then you turn out to be in that category. It just, so to me, this is to me, this is simple, but it's a huge thing. A
It
lot
is.
of people say they can do something, but they only do for a short period of time, or they do something like, for example, they say, I'm going to start reading, right? They read a lot and then they just stop 2 days, 3 days, even a month after. But if you say, well, I don't need to read a lot, I just need to read 10 minutes, and you read 10 minutes and you add all those minutes together, it is, in comparison, so humongous comparing to the spurts of things you try. So I agree. Having a daily a repeated routines will actually makes you the person that you try to be. Just whatever that you do in that 10 minutes, you become that person.
100%. I mean, this is I wrote about it in the book too. I know you read it. So
Mm-hmm.
the whole Hardy Meyer Center for Inquiry, you know, the whole story about like, this is how I discovered God too. Not, I didn't discover God because I was listening to somebody talk about God and reading a reflection from the Bible or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
How I discovered God in my own head because I talked to myself for the first time in my life, and I spent time in concentrated thought every single day, you know, understanding how I felt and writing that down and talking through it and hearing my own voice. It's one thing to read and listen to somebody else. Oftentimes we let it come into one ear and immediately flies out the other. It might stop for a hot second and say, yeah, that's a cool idea. And then
Right. It
we
doesn't
move on,
stick.
right? Right. It
Doesn't
doesn't
stick
stick. But
if you don't actually see yourself talking. It's not applicable to you. So
right.
it just, go from one ears and out the other. And whether or not somebody, push their beliefs onto you, you just don't believe it because there's
Right.
no I guess there's no meaningful connections to that belief until you do it yourself and see yourself. That's where the true belief comes in.
Exactly. And honestly, like, I don't really even know how I would even start my day off at this point in time. I like, there's been, I want to say maybe five, maybe five times in the past, you know, 2+ years that I didn't do it immediately first thing in the morning because of some reason. Like, I don't know, we had a
Hmm.
4 a.m. flight or something like that. You know, we had to get somewhere and I didn't have time to, you know, I had to run to the airport or whatever. I didn't have time to like plan it out early. Or sorry, I did have time, but I did not plan it out early enough where I was able to get up and spend 10 minutes or something
Hmm.
like that. But I've noticed even
But
in
it's
those days, but
Yeah,
like I
but it's
still did
harder
it.
for you to skip now.
Oh, I don't skip it ever. Like, I
You
mean,
can't. It's
even
much
on
harder
those
to skip
days.
now because you have become that person. Like I say,
Right.
in the beginning, you're not completely that person. So it's easier to forget and easier to skip. But once you're already done it for a number of years, well, to you, it's like this is something. It's my ritual. I
I
can't.
can't even
I
I
can't.
can't start my day without it, honestly. Like, I
Exactly.
mean, so that's what I was getting at with those 5 days or so that over the past couple years that I didn't get to do it immediately when I first woke up in the morning. Like, it just, something felt off all day long. And I eventually did it like either before I went to bed or whatever. But there's never been a day that I've missed when I was
Hmm.
doing this. But I've just noticed like how awful I love starting off my day, just getting my brain energized a little bit, like, you know, warming it up a little bit, you know. Like, it was funny. I was reading finishing up that book, Bird by Bird, that I was telling you about, that we'll talk about
Hmm.
later on. And you know, one of the things that she was talking about in Bird by Bird is, you know, taking that step by step and, you know, set a goal to write 300 words a day. Like, I almost laugh at that because like I write probably, I'm not even a writer. I mean, well, I guess I am a writer now, but I'm not even I'm not even a traditional, like, you know, this is my job kind of thing writer.
Right. It's not your profession.
It's not my profession, but I mean, I probably write 1,000 to 1,500 words a day, you know, and I don't even blink an
Hmm.
eye about it. Like, it's not challenging for me, but that was like the minimum threshold bar that she would tell her students. If you want to be a writer, write 300 words a day. Like, that's, I mean, I get that accomplished with just like, you know, my reflection with from Joyce's book or whatever. Like, I mean,
Right.
it's just get your brain going and get, you know, get your thoughts out, get things spinning along. And then all of a sudden, like, you know, your imagination just opens up and you're ready to go have a deeper conversation with yourself, and whatever that turns into, whether it's writing these kind of reflections or, you know, going on a deeper dive with the topic that I want to talk about or whatever. Like, it's, I don't know how I would do it anymore without this starting my day. And
Hmm.
I don't plan on this never not being a part of my day for the rest of my life.
Right. Yeah. It makes you who you are.
Yeah,
Right.
it does. Yeah. Anyway, so any other final thoughts? I mean, this is I know this book isn't a lot for us to like debate about because there's
Yeah,
nothing, you
but
know.
it's a good thing that this book basically becomes that, like you say, the catalyst to um pivot your life into a person that you happy that you did it.
Yeah, I mean, it's you know, if you remember back to the Tuesdays with Maury, the perfect day is ordinary, right? Like,
Right.
I want every one of my days to start off like this, like, and
Right.
it matters, you know. I
Yes.
mean, I would feel awful if I didn't get a chance to talk to myself, or i.e. God, you know, whatever you want to call
Mhm.
it, like,
Right.
you know, every morning, for the rest of my life. Like, I actually, I enjoy my, you know, call myself crazy, I don't know, but you know, I enjoy my conversations in my head every day now. You know,
Right.
like, they're pretty fun sometimes.
You're right. Right. And I think, I think that's what keeps you from getting, um, I guess, washed away by all the adversity around you, because it anchors you. And I mean, to me, I can imagine this is how you're able to, grab hold of something and keep your sanity. Because there's so much thing could have gone on in the NICU that, people just wouldn't be able to take it psychologically.
Right. I love the word you use, like grasp on, like anchoring. I don't know why I've been having this like idea of, or visualization of, oceans, and like
Mm-hmm.
sand,
Mm-hmm.
sand on the beach, you know, like it's always there. It's always
Right.
underneath it. It moves back and forth with it, but it's like, you know, like at the end of the day, the sand's gonna always be, you know, where the sand is. Like, the water might move it a little bit, but like, you can
Mm-hmm.
always trust that once the water pulls away, the sand will still be there, kind of thing.
Right.
And you know, it's like, I don't know. I feel like writing's kind of like that for me. You know, like I might get sloshed around by life a lot. You know,
Mm-hmm.
but like, you know, if I spend that 10 minutes a day
Right.
reflecting, thinking, anchoring myself, you know, I can kind of be like a little bit like sand. I know Bruce Lee wants us to be like water, but you know, maybe I just want to be like sand a little bit. I can move a little bit, but not a ton, you know. And then over
Right.
time, maybe
Right.
eventually I get swept out of the ocean and I get moved across continents, but it's going to take like a million years, you know. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
There you go.
And so with that, we leave you with a question. How could 10 minutes of reflections or anything, doing anything, 10 minutes a day could help you in your life?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, we'll see you all tomorrow.
Yep. Sounds good.